2 years ago, I built this table.
Not my best idea.
2 months ago, I sold it.
Oh, well, now I've done it.
That kicked off a chain of events I never saw coming.
This sucks.
And brought me back to another slab from the exact same tree.
Not gonna be fun.
So, let's build another table. When I walked into my lumber yard 2 years ago to buy that slab, I had 2 goals in mind. To build the first table of what would eventually become my slab table empire, and to make what I thought would be my first really successful YouTube video. That video tanked, and the ads I ran to sell the table itself all fell flat. So at the time, both felt like a pretty big failure. But recently, someone saw that video and had their interior designer reach out to see if the table was still available. Oddly enough, I had mixed emotions about selling it. I'd grown quite attached to it. But looking back, it couldn't have come at a better time, and honestly has me rethinking my relationship with YouTube altogether. So while we were arranging the sale and freight halfway across the country for a table this size, I contacted the company that originally imported the slab.
I think I saw this in a Wile E. Coyote cartoon once.
I mainly wanted to thank them for their help in the last video, but also to ask if there was any way they could track down a similar slab.
I need help.
They replied with, "Yeah, I think we still have a bull of that species down in the yard." And after a quick Google search to find out what a bull is, I sent them this original picture and said, "Is this the one?" And they responded with, "Yeah, it's the same tree." And 2 weeks later, I have once again drastically underestimated the logistics of moving a giant slice of tree. If you missed it in the last video, the species is called ayeg, and it's one of the largest hardwood trees in Central Africa, sometimes growing over 200 feet tall, and it weighs in at about 50 pounds per cubic foot. For comparison, white pine is around 22 to 25 pounds per cubic foot, walnut around 38, and white oak tops out at around 47. The reason I even know that is because after noticing how much heavier the dust collection bag was when I emptied it versus a normal week, I had to look up why.
Oh my god. This thing is so heavy. Oh, I don't even need to lift it. I can just kind of... Oh, there we go. Woo!
My track saw couldn't make it all the way through the slab, even with multiple passes, so I used the DeWalt for the final cuts on both ends.
That scared the wee-wee out of me.
Having the larger CNC table made the process of flattening this slab so much easier and faster than the last one, but it was significantly more cupped than the last time, so I ended up losing about a ½ inch of material to get it flat on top. But even with that much material gone, I needed to figure out a way to manage something this heavy by myself. So I bought an engine hoist. I wasn't sure this would be able to do what I was hoping it would do, but I also can't really afford to keep bothering my friends and family every time I need to flip something like this. So I decided to give it a try.
Oh, it's not working.
I've got some dialing in to do with the strap system, but overall it worked pretty well and allowed me to keep forward momentum without waiting for help.
What? Ah! Oi, chihuahua.
I was trying to keep as much material as possible on the bottom to preserve the overall thickness. So you'll notice I left some of the low spots. I don't think it was worth losing another ½ inch over the whole area, and as you'll see later, adds a little rough sawn character.
Just wheel this patient back to the waiting room. Look at that thing. That's good. On the last one of these tables,
I filled all the little cracks with clear. But this time, I want to accentuate those cracks. I'm doing it with black. I don't know. Maybe it's like the Japanese art where they fix the breaks with gold, or maybe I just like the idea that the cracks are part of what makes this beautiful. I don't know. Symbolism or something. This also might be a total disaster. I really liked the base I designed for that first table, but I sold it as a one-of-a-kind piece. So since I'm reusing the same exact tree, I felt like making an identical set of legs for this one was off the table. It's probably for the best because those things took forever to build last time. And with my dining table shipping out any day now, I need to get this one finished to replace it. I simplified the design just a bit, changed the height, but tried to keep enough of the original look that these two tables would still feel related without making the new one a direct copy. Now, I always tell people I own a welder, I am not a welder. But it is an incredibly useful skill to have in general, but especially as I'm trying to build out a shop that only does custom builds. So every time I build something like this, I try to get a little bit better at it, a little cleaner, and slightly less dependent on the grinder to conceal the fact that I'm not classically trained. Selling that first table happened at a strange time for me. When I started this channel, I thought YouTube would eventually become the center of my business. I would build projects for videos, the videos would pay for the projects, and like many of our YouTube heroes, that would turn into a career. And given that I was only 2 years into it, I thought it was going really, really well. But for some reason, at the beginning of April 2026, my channel just nosedived. Monthly revenue went from over $600 to less than $50. And videos that I'd spent months making were barely getting shown to anyone. I can speculate all day about what happened, but at the end of the day, I had to start asking myself, is all this extra time I'm putting into recording and editing these videos actually worth it? And then an old video with only about 5,000 views sold the nicest piece of furniture I had ever built. Well, nicest table. That Lord of the Rings bench was pretty freaking cool, guys. Anyway, what I'm saying is 5,000 views on that video didn't turn me into a full-time YouTuber. But it would have taken 1.5 million views at standard ad revenue to make the same amount of money as that sale. Back to the table. One thing I've learned from talking to potential customers is that they often just see a slab and a pair of legs and assume that's the whole table. But what separates a good custom slab table from a cheaper mass-produced one is what's hidden underneath. A slab like this is going to move with humidity and temperature changes. But installed correctly, these steel C-channels and the plates attaching the legs are what will help it resist that natural cupping and twisting. So I just realized doing this by hand is gonna suck, but I don't have a driver big enough. But what I do have is 2 of these, and I only need 1. I've got an idea. Sweet. So by using these threaded inserts, held in place with epoxy, and elongating the holes on the outer edges of the steel, the wood has the ability to expand and contract across the width of the table, instead of fighting against the steel and potentially cracking. I also like to take a minute to finish the carved out sections for those with some kind of polyurethane or other oil-based finish, because it's much easier to do that now with a brush than with the hard wax oil we'll be using for the rest. Just like the last table, I'll be using Rubio Monocoat for a couple different reasons. One, a little goes a long way. This whole side took only 3 ounces. 2, because it's consistent, it looks great, and just works. And 3, because right now I can't afford that fancy UV light and the $1,000 bucket of finish that goes with it. But for those of you that have made the jump to that sort of finish or have a different finish recommendation, I'd love to hear your experience down in the comments. Also, if you've made it this far in the video, atomic elbow those like and subscribe buttons. It's a really easy way to help out the creators and content you enjoy watching. With the engine hoist and a little help from my buddy Tyler, we got it flipped back over.
Watch your fingers.
Then I water popped the grain before the final sanding. This is an important step to make sure I get that glass smooth finish I hope to achieve. While that dries, I can get started on the crossbeam. With the weight of these tables, I think a lateral support is 100% necessary. I just have this nightmare of one of the dogs or a guest accidentally bumping into the side and the whole 600-pound table just dropping on top of them. Irrational fear? Maybe. But I think the crossbeam also looks cool, so win-win. On the last table, I used mahogany and cut it down so that each end went through the center of the A-frame. But for this one, I went with sapele and decided to cut in channels that would slide over the A-frame of the legs. I felt like once the finish goes on, the reds in the sapele will really complement the warmer tones of the table. And by sliding it over the top of the bars, it gives me more room to use a much thicker and heavier beam. And though I'm not very good with the finer hand tools, I do always look forward to any chance to bust out the chisels and pretend to be a real woodworker for a few minutes. The beam is the most likely part of the table to get scratched up, at least in my house with the dogs running laps and using it as a hurdle. So I used the General Finishes oil-based top coat here too so that it'd be easier to touch up in the future. And I was able to use these cutoffs from the leg construction to prop it up to dry. After working on this table for a couple weeks, here is the part where it actually comes to life. And I was a little bit worried about how it would turn out. Will the color and grain be as nice? Will the black epoxy work as well as I thought? Or will it be too distracting and somehow detract from the natural look or feel of the wood? I didn't want this table to be an exact copy of the other one, but I did want it to carry over some of the same color and characteristics. So I was relieved to find that even though it's from the same tree, this one turned out completely different, and I fell in love all over again. For about the last 15 years, these guys have come over on Mondays, and we play music for a couple hours.
Oh, it's raining.
Hurry, hurry.
But this week, I bribed them with barbecue to help me move the table into the house. And while we're all dressed like the youngest members of a local Corvette owners club, I promise we're actually a real functioning rock band.
Oh my God, that worked.
Measurements were good.
That was amazing. I can't believe that worked, actually.
With the new table in the house, there was just one more thing I needed to do. I got an email from the customer asking if I would mind signing the bottom so that future generations know where the table came from and who built it. And I gotta say, that made me feel pretty good. So instead of just signing the bottom with a marker, I designed a permanent plaque with all the information about the build along with a link to the original video etched into it. Slab table number 1 gets the very first one, with slab table number 2 right behind it. My first slab table has been cleaned and prepped for the long journey to New Jersey next week. And I just finished applying the ceramic coating to table number 2. And it will be hosting its very first game night this weekend. They came from the same tree, but became 2 very different tables. And I guess my plans have changed a little too. This may not be turning into the full-time YouTube career I imagined when I built that first one, but I do still get to build really cool things and tell the stories behind it. So, is it really worth my time? Is the juice worth the squeeze? For me, the juice is the squeeze. It's not the plan I started with, but it's still pretty freaking cool. Thanks for watching.